Good morning, and welcome to Who Am I? I'm having issues this morning getting into my head properly. The show is almost a channeling thing. I'm not really channeling, but I am hooking into a particular something, and it's not my regular me. My regular me doesn't really know what it is I'm going to say when I come into the show and start talking about who am I. I it's like you align yourself differently during the course of a regular day. It's like you line yourself up horizontally, and you go in sequence, this and this and this and this and this and this and this, and you have these ideas about what it consists of and what the actions you're doing and blah blah blah, all that. But you're stacked horizontally. When I come into this show, it's like I pull my whole self together and stack it vertically. And it's how come I have something to say every day, even though I don't actually pay a lot of close attention to current events. I do kind of know what's going on out there a little bit. Our ex-president, our former president, is in the middle of a salacious trial, and he's being himself all over the place. And the Republicans are still voting for Nikki Haley, even though she dropped out a long time ago, which speaks to the regular Republicans, not the MAGA ones, who don't think that Trump. They aren't bedazzled by him, and they'd rather see somebody else. I understand all of that, and as a matter of fact, I've watched a little bit of it lately, and I have a hard time doing that. I really have a hard time doing that. Because remember, the position is that there is no us and them. That's my position. And I understand there is an us and them. You can take a perspective. You can hit a perspective where it's absolutely true there is an us and them. But I'm telling you, the broader perspective doesn't hold that. And it actually isn't really... It's not helpful or true to imagine that there is an us and them. It's actually much more helpful and true to see through that. So we ask the question, who am I? And the point of it all is, I believe that through an understanding of our physical nature, the nature of the medium that we're swimming in, the nature of the way reality becomes reality. So we're going to be talking about the laws of the universe, just the very, very basic ones. We're bringing this back to a general basic. But we're talking about reality itself, so that if you understand how reality itself comes into being, then you start understanding what's true, what could be true, how to work the machine to bring about truths that are more and more pleasing to the soul. How do you get more of what you want and less of what you don't want? How do you get more loving cooperation and care for each other and the whole biofield, and less meanness and ignorance, death through ignorance, destruction through ignorance, Shiva energy? How do you put the genie back in the bottle? How do you get the demon back under the land of Xanth? How do you understand the energies so that you can even understand what it is that we do when we summon demons? What it would mean, what I would mean by a sentence like that. Summoning demons. What the heck would I mean by that? Well, I'm not a religious person and I'm not a superstitious person, so I'm actually, in saying a sentence like that, I would be using sort of a provocative way of describing an energy so that people might understand They might get a hit in the imagination as to how religious people are thinking. And they're not wrong. It's just, as a matter of fact, they're not wrong at all. They're just describing it in their way. So when we go counter to our own alignment, when we do not understand the energies and believe our negative minds and act from that position and own that as part of us and let the demon drive your vehicle, you're basically summoning demons into the field. Or you could say it that way. I mean, I don't actually believe in the independent nature of these demons. They're actually just effects of our not understanding our own energy flows. Somehow, whenever we believe our negative self and go with it and identify with it and let it act through our bodies, we have in effect summoned demons. Isn't that interesting? I don't usually talk like that because it's not, I don't think it's helpful to just talk that way, but maybe it is helpful to use many different forms of language to describe the same phenomenon so that people speaking all kinds of different languages can hear it and they go, oh, I don't have to take this personally. This is just how it works. So yesterday I started to talk about the 1, 3, 5, 7. It actually goes to 11. The download from Bashar, 1, 3, 5, 7. But I'm just going to stop at 7 because I don't really know the 11 aspects of your bliss or your passion or your joy or whatever the 11 number relates to. I'm not even, I don't know what the 11 aspects are. So I was just going to go the 1 through 7, and I think I stopped around 3 and kind of dribbled off. The way that download goes, it's these numbers refer to some interesting characteristics in reality. So the 1 refers to the one, the allness, that is the one holographic almighty, the one that is all and the all that is one. That's actually one of the 5 rules you can't change. We're going to get there when we get to 5. But the 1 is the allness that is everything. And then it goes to 3. And the reason it goes to 3 is this. If you go from 1 to 2, as in we're talking about perspectives, if you go to 2, that's the polarity of right and wrong, the binary, the duality. But when you have the duality, implied is the center point, the balance point to see the 2 extremes, which takes you from 2 directly to 3. So you go, the 1 becomes the 3, and then what's the 5? The 5 is the 5 rules of reality that you can't change. The first one is you exist. There is nothing you can do to change that. I actually like that one because it implies that you aren't going to wink out of existence. You're here and you're here forever. And I guess the reason that you are is because we are all one thing. And the one thing is here forever. So you exist. There's nothing you can do to change that. Everything is here and now. There's nothing you can do to change that. The all is one. The one is all. There's nothing you can do to change that. You get back. What you put out is what you get back. There's nothing you can do to change that. And everything, the 5th one is everything changes except the laws. there's nothing you can do to change that. And what I see in that line is what you can't change is you are the quantum field, and the laws are the way what the laws are, and that never changes. But the form, the flexing manifestation, the rolling form of images, the change in what the plonks are turning to, that always changes. You can't hold that one to the same thing. You can try, but it's winking completely out and then completely back. And so when it comes back, there is a lot of the sameness because, you can't really change your mind that clearly, many, many billion times in a second. You mostly come back the same. But because you went completely out, and then there's things that are driving this motion forward, it doesn't wing back exactly the same forever and ever. So things always change. You can try to hold on to sameness as hard as you can. You can try to hold on to sameness, and a whole lot of it will, but you can't hold on to it. Everything changes except for the laws. And then what's the 7? The 7 are the basic needs. And in my life, I've been trying to focus more on these. And just get simple. Keep it simple, stupid. The KISS principle, Try to get back to basics. There are 7 things that you need for your life to go forward. And the rest of it is fluff. And the rest of it is your own self-torture. And the rest of it is your own not harnessing your monkey mind. Kind of makes your monkey mind torture you. But this all has to do with sorting out your negative self, which is what we're talking about anyway. So I'm getting a grip on my negative mind. And I'm able to keep it quite simple with that. And my mind can go quite restful, sort of Pooh-like, Winnie the Pooh-like. I don't know if you've ever read the book, The Tao of Pooh, or The Tao of Pooh. And Pooh himself is he's the Tao master, actually, the uncarved block. He's just himself, and he expresses a lot of wisdom. So what am I talking about? Keep it simple, stupid. I'm trying to want what I need and need what I want and not get too crazy in other things. So what is it? What are the 7 needs? Starts with air. And actually this should be a duh, but these days with what we're doing to our air and our water, it's not a duh. There is work to do in the first couple of needs. You should have been that Source just provides this. You're born into a natural space, and the air and the water's there. It's what it was before we showed up and started burning fossil fuels 100 years ago. 150 years ago, 125 years ago. Was it right around the turn of the century? Maybe it was the 1900s. We started burning oil in the late 1800s. So we've been at it for a little over 100 years, and we are killing the planet. And it's the only thing that's killing the planet. Well, it's the biggest thing that's killing the planet about what we do, and the biggest thing that would change if we would get off fossil fuels. And that's actually probably the loudest drum I want to beat in this whole show that I do, this Who Am I? Because it's the one that is immediate and necessary and actually goes to a lot of the drama that you see around the world. It's the reason that we fight the wars. It's the reason that Putin has the power that he does. It's the reason Kim Jong-un has the power that he does. It's the reason that the wars in the Middle East keep going on. And there's all the big kerfuffle about who should we back, who's telling the truth, what should we do? It's all bullshit. We really need to take a step back and think about this for just a minute before we act rashly. In order to act appropriately and in order to behave correctly in any given situation, it is my hypothesis, my thesis, my theory, that we need to understand who we are in order to act effectively. Otherwise, we're just lighting our hair on fire and running around screaming, saying, ah, ah, ah. And what does that do? It doesn't really do anything. I believe that the biggest physical reason why we fight wars with one another and have problems geopolitically, as well as everything from any form of poverty. There should be no poverty on the planet. It is a manufactured poverty, and where does it come from? It comes from, first of all, us not properly co-creating with Mother Nature, because she can create abundance beyond our imagining. And we should be working with her and not, stabbing her in the chest with our steely knives. I don't know why, I do know why we do this. We do this because we don't know who we are. We do not understand our own emotional guidance system. We take our emotions too literally, too personally, too conditionally. We take ourselves too personally. We are not a personal event. We are more than a personal event. Even ourselves are coming from a self that's bigger than the self encased just in our single physical body. Although I do have something to say about our individuality, because I have a pet concept of my own that I call divine autonomy, which has to do with your own power to make choices and to think clearly, and in your clarity move in tandem with your inner being forward with its guidance, and how that keeps you safe. Instead of what we think we have to do, which is engage the physical mind in all of the threats and dangers and make sure that you understand all the threats and the dangers so that you can avoid the threats and the dangers. Keep them in your physical mind. I actually don't think that's the best way to be truly safe, as well as truly fulfilled in your life. You need to crack that open. You need to learn how to hand over your safety to your inner being. Trust your inner being and her guidance. And then you, in your physical mind, are now free to think way more interesting things. Like things that are in alignment with what your inner being thinks is interesting. Like, what an amazing setup we are actually born into. When you get past all of everything from self-recrimination and judgment and blame and fear and threats and all of that sort of thing, when you get past that and start realizing what the setup of the quantum field actually is, and what universal consciousness is, and how a human being is actually set up, and what kind of information and potential that you have access to through your design, through your physical design in this physical world, linked up with this magnificent manifestation machine that is plugged into the desires of all beings if we'd just quit the judging and get on with the understanding. We live in the most amazing universe, and the game is weighted so heavily in your favor it wouldn't even really be a game, except for your ability to hide from yourself. From your ability, so there is only one thing. There is only one thing, and that is this this quantum field spinning. That's the only thing that exists anywhere. This ether spinning. And as it spins, it creates the appearance of matter and experience. What is it doing? So like if you peer into anything on the periodic table of elements, what you're going to see is you're going to see different, you're going to see this quantum field spinning at different rates. So if it spins this way, it's silver. If it spins that way, it's gold. If it spins this other way, it's lead. If it spins some other direction, the frequency, every one of the chemical elements has a different frequency. That's how come we can analyze the light coming off of stars or distant objects in the galaxies and analyze the light coming off of them and know what they're made of. Because we can look through the spectrum of whatever and go, oh, there's this frequency and there's that frequency, so there's gold and lead and nickel and iron and blah, 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 whatever. That's how come we can do that. Everything's a different frequency, but it's nothing but this ether of Planck's spinning. Now, I don't know what they thought the ether was going to be made of when they first tried to identify it back the Michelson-Morley experiment in 1886, trying to measure the drag of the ether, the frame dragging that would occur if there was an ether in the space. And they weren't able to pick it up because it's at the Planck level. And I don't know, we have not discussed this yet today, but what the heck is a Planck? A Planck is a frequency, a very, 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 very short frequency. The frequency of the universe is a really long, big, it's the whole thing. What is a Planck? So there is a mathematical formula. These are the Planck units right here. And how do you get a Planck? You take a photon, which is a packet of light. It's not a Planck, it's way bigger than a Planck. You take a photon going at the speed of light, crossing its own diameter, and that's a Planck. Or at least to my understanding, that's what a Planck is. And the distance that is, that's the Planck length. The time it takes to do it, that's the Planck time. And since mass and energy are the same thing, and this little length is an energy expression, there's a little mass involved, and it's a very, very little mass, let me tell you. Very small. Planck is a very, very small thing. It's so small. There's so many of these in a proton. How many Plancks are there in a proton? Well, there's enough that the Planck field of a single proton is encoded within that is all of the information of all of the rest of the protons in all of the universe. That's how many Plancks there are in a proton. So, to think about it more physically, If you made every one of those plonks the size of a grain of sand, now the proton would be from our sun to Alpha Centauri. Make that a sphere. That's the diameter of the sphere. Make it a sphere, fill it with sand. That's how many plonks there are in a single proton. That's how tiny a plonk is really small. And so when they tried to pick up the drag of that ether, it's occurring at a level so small, their instruments in 1886 were not up to the task. It did not detect it. And so they threw out the concept of the ether. There's no ether. There is an ether that connects us all, and it's occurring at the Planck level. And these Planck oscillators, every one of them at that level, they're winking completely out and completely back in. And how is it happening? It's through the jiggle of space-time. All these plonks are touching one another. Everything is touching. It's all connected. And through their frequencies, their little frequencies. What's a frequency? It's a little jiggle. It's an energy thing. It's a vibration. They're winking completely out and then completely back in. And in doing so, the way they're doing it, as they wink back in, they jiggle together and they form, this is how I see it. And this is why it's holographic. Now, I've said this before, I just haven't said it lately, and I never know when I'm picking up new customers, new listeners. I think I have a single fan out there, and they seem to be listening to every episode I do. I'm hoping, unless it's all kinds of different people, wouldn't that be great? I don't know which one I hope. But somebody's liking every one, and I'm just so grateful. I'm so grateful you keep me going. And I'm just doing this for me. I know that at some point the field is going to call me to just come forward and naturally say what I know, what is natural for me to put together now, because I've done it so many times in this office on this show. You know, I'm going to answer somebody's questions. And this is not, I'm not coming at this out of left field on my own. These are not my own mad formulas that have just come out of my own tortured mind. This is all coming out of physics and mathematics. And I trust that this person who, this slide is Nassim Haramein, but I'm confident that he did not make these formulas up. And if he did, actually, I know he didn't. He's not the one who came up with the Planck unit. It was Max Planck that came up with the Planck unit. Isn't that interesting? And it's sort of a way of quantizing the space, and then now you can work with it. Well, anyway, back to what I was saying. The universe is holographic. And the way it's holographic, it's doing it through an interference pattern, through a cosmic collective jiggle. The whole thing is jiggling together. And as it jiggles together, it transfers information across the spaces, across the scales. There are scales of expression and reality and experience. There's the Planck scale, and then there's the atomic scale, and then there's the scale of ordinary experience, that the biological scale that you and I as biological entities, individual entities that we're, and then there's smaller and larger scales of that, but that runs through a general range. And then there's like planets, and then stars, and then solar systems, and galaxies, and clusters, and superclusters, and universes, and then multiverses, and scales of things, you know? And the information of these morphic fields are transferring across the scales of information through this cosmic jiggle of space-time, through all of these Plancks touching one another. because the space between everything is not empty. It's not empty at all. It's full of plonks. And if it doesn't look like there's stuff, it's still plonks. They're just not spinning. They're lined up like crystals. And then something in our consciousness is kind of screening them out because there's nothing to see there because they aren't organized, but it's still full. The space is full. Everything's full. It's full of plonks. It's solid packed plonks everywhere. And when they spin together, they make matter. And we are spinning. And the whole thing is spinning. That's how come I put in my links these days. I have been putting a link to this. I've been putting a link to the Whirling Dervishes video. That's the one at the bottom. This is what I'm going to put as links to this video, like I always do. Now, I'm sorry, I'm sounding a little bored. I don't mean to be bored. I'm not bored. I'm actually, I don't know from what direction to attack this. I do know that we can understand our own equipment. We can understand our own equipment. We can understand our own emotions. We can understand our own consciousness. We can understand God. We can understand the allness. We can understand we can understand the laws of the universe and how you get what you get. And through that understanding, let's get to a better place where we get more of what we want and less of what we don't want. And I'll tell you what, a big load of what we're getting that we don't want is coming from the fact that we are fueling our society with fossil fuels. We need to leave it in the ground. We need to leave it in the ground. And the reason that we haven't left it in the ground is we have been led to believe that we have to burn it, and we don't. Which comes to the first thing on my list. There is the lost century and how to reclaim it. If you are new to this show, and someday there will be people who are new to this show, someday I will let them in. I have only ever given this link to loved ones. It's when they start sharing it with other people, and then it gets away from me. That's when I've got something. Right now, I probably don't have any new listeners. But if I had a new listener, we need to understand as a people. We need to understand this. And it's no trivial thing that it is possible for us to incrementally move away from fossil fuels. It doesn't have to be all or nothing. It doesn't have to be we don't move away at all until somebody manages to, that holy grail of the misguided, which is cold fusion or whatever it is we're looking for. Clean cold fusion. How is that going to help the 3 billion people on the planet who don't have access to any energy at all? It isn't going to help. That isn't going to be the source of it. So what is going to be the answer? First of all, knowing that a jillion clever ideas are possible and have already happened. And they have been ruthlessly suppressed. And how dare they be suppressed? How dare they do that to us? How dare they do that to the planet? And the result is the wars and all the death and all the suffering and all the poverty across the globe. All of the poverty is being caused by this. How dare they? How dare they do that? Now, my inner being is not at all that concerned about this. And the reason my inner being is not concerned about this is my inner being knows the answer. And the answer is not to get excited, but to understand that help is at hand. This is the way the laws of the universe work. These are the steps of creation. Step 1, my life causes me to know more clearly what it is that I want and more clearly what it is that I do not want. And the more that you get loads of what you don't want, the more it clarifies what it is you do want. I know what I want. I want peace on earth, goodwill towards men. I want universal freedom for all of us. I want everyone following their bliss. Because that's actually the way the system works. If you do not pay attention to what you want and focus that direction, you're screwing the system up. Focus on what you want. Keep looking at what you want. Keep noticing and taking note of what you want. Quit being transfixed by what you don't want and letting your consciousness drift that direction until you're like staring into the face of Medusa and all turned to stone. Yes, that's the meaning of that myth. You got to keep your attention focused on what you want. You got to get practiced at noticing what you like, not just what you don't like. And don't keep beating the drum of what you don't like and staring at what you don't like, because whatever you're looking at, incrementally, the quantum field keeps morphing into whatever it is you're looking at. If you're looking at the more and the better, then it's becoming the more and the better. And if you keep looking at the less and what you don't, and the less and the what you don't like, then that's what it's morphing into. More of the same. Whatever it is you're looking at. And what has got your attention? Are you looking at are you thinking of ideas about how to make it better, about how to make it cooler, about what we could do with this, how we could co-create with the rest of the field to make this whole situation better? Step 1, life causes you to ask for more. Step 2, Source answers you. But how does Source answer? Source answers with a frequency. Source answers with a vibration. And you've got to go find that vibration. You got to know the vibration exists, that your asking caused the answer to be born. And why was it born? Because it's the implicate positive. You hit the negative note and your soul knew exactly what you were asking for. The positive thing you wanted, the more you were asking for, you were hungry. Your soul, your source, your soul knew you were asking for food and what you were asking for. And so that vibration is there. What is that vibration? Well, you go find that vibration, and then you will be led to the impulses and the interactions with the field around you that will start to create that you just asked for. It's like a law of the universe. You ask, Source answers. How do you find the answer? You have to get into the receiving mode. You have to expect it to happen. You have to have faith. You have to know that Source is on it. You have to know that an answer exists. So instead of being problem solvers, what we should be is solution finders. Because if you're a problem solver, then primarily your attention is focused on the problem. And that right there is a fundamental misunderstanding of your equipment. You don't understand the field, and you don't understand consciousness, and you don't understand focus and attention if you're doing it that way. It's an absolute total giveaway. If you're focusing on the problem, then right away that implies you don't understand the setup. What you need to do, so I've put this picture up and I haven't explained it. This is your source mind and your specific mind. That's what this represents to me. That's what this picture represents to me. You've got overview mind and you've got specific. I'm dialing into a specific on the grid, boots on the ground. I'm looking at a specific something and I'm making specific choices. That's you on the ground. Now, how do you do that? How do you do it effectively given the way reality comes into being? So it's winking in and out. It's winking completely out and coming back in completely fresh. This is how come the potential is what it is. Because if you can get your focus of your attention to Focus clearly upon what you want and just hold that steady and move that direction. You'll go right to what you want. But you got to clearly identify what you want. I want humanity to consciously know who he is, who she is, who we are, where we came from, what we're made of, how it works. So we quit fighting with each other. So we quit building stupid infrastructure. So we quit killing the rest of the planet as we do what comes natural to us. I don't like that. I do not like that. I love the rest of the biological beings that I share my planet with. Elephants, polar bears, seals, coral reefs, eagles, elephants. Did I already say elephants? I know I did. I love them twice. Everything. The biosphere of this planet is breathtaking and beautiful and wonderful. Octopuses. Octopuses, they're so smart. They're so... There is one soul upon this planet, and it's taking different forms. And when you get to know them, the words escape me, which is probably not a good thing when you're doing this show, because it's all about words. And if I lose my words, then everybody's sitting there listening to nothing, you know? So, I love my planet, and I am tired of us killing it. I want to worship it. I want to make friends with it. I want to co-create with it. I want to experience its abundance. I want the freedom myself, and I want the freedom of all the human beings around me who are so inclined to do so. I want to be able to joyfully travel around the planet. We want to visit one another. We want to see how one another lives. We want to taste each other's food and buy each other's goods. We want to sail upon each other's seas. We want to listen to each other's indigenous wisdoms. All of these things we want to keep doing. We want to not murder one another in sanctioned wars. It is not okay that we come together collectively as a nation and sanction bombing other human beings. I don't care what somebody tells us the backstory is. There is no conscionable reason to do such things. And we need to knock it off. And why do we do it? Because we're battling over scarcity of resources. There is no reason for a scarcity of resources. First of all, I think humanity... Well, let's dial back to the 7 things that we need. And let's want what we need and need what we want and co-create together. See, my desired position is a win-win. Win-win-win-win-win-win. I want all of us to have all of these things. Water, clean water, air, sleep, food, shelter, relationship, and expression. I want every single biological being on the planet to have the freedom to have all of those things, those needs met. I want all of those needs met generally for all beings everywhere. And as I co-create my systems on the planet, it ought to be baked into the cake. Human beings should not build systems anymore that cut out the needs of others. We're clever enough now, and we're wise. We're wise, are we? Well, we could be. We could come together and get wise about this. I think the biggest problem that we've got going on right now is that we do not understand who we are, and we don't understand generally the quantum field and how possible it is. It's a big freaking 3D printer, people. And if we really understood it, we could pull objects directly out of the quantum field. They're winking, the stuff is winking absolutely 100% out of existence and then back into existence. Every plonk instant. What more do you need? Now you just need to understand the principles upon which it comes in, either the same as it was or different than it was. What is the fulcrum that's turning on? I used that expression wrong. It's not, fulcrum doesn't turn, does it? A screw turns, a fulcrum, whatever. So what makes things come in the same and what makes things come in different? Well, if you are looking at what is, then you are contributing to bringing about more of the same, because your emotional response is coming from looking at what is. And if you're staring at the parts of it that you don't like, then that's mostly what you're bringing into existence, is more of the same of that. It's changing, but to things that are the same spirit, the same kind of vibrational frequency, the same darkness or lightness, whatever it is that you are focusing on, that's what you are. That's the direction that you're going. That's what you're manifesting. That's what's coming about. So what are you looking at? Well, your inner being is looking at what you want. She has taken note of every preference you have ever identified, and she's staring at the preference. She's not looking at what is, because she just knows what is. She doesn't have to look at what is to know what is. How do you do that? Well, because all the information is coming in through all of your atomic structure, because every one of your protons is reflecting all of the information and all of the rest of the protons and all of the rest of the universe. In other words, it's reflecting all of reality in every one of your protons. It's a little black integer, a little black hole. Spell it WHOLE. That's the structure of the universe. And I'm telling you, it's how come I keep doing this show. Who am I? Who am I? Who am I? Because I am absolutely convinced that our serious understanding of our nature and the potential of this magnificent 3D printing quantum field that can become anything, and what is it moving on, and how are we manifesting every moment new. Well, if it's all new, why is it all the same crap? The same war, the same poverty, the same fighting about everything, the same misunderstandings of everything, the same stupid, we're getting ready to, vote in, elected dictator, and if we don't elect him, he's going to claim he was elected, and we've practically got civil war on our hands. Now, I don't think it's going to be all the way to one side arming itself with, cannons, fighting against the other side armed with cannons, like it was, 150 years ago, 160 years ago. But we're going to be at odds with one another until we understand what it is we're looking at. Who am I? And how am I manifesting? So every individual is 100% responsible for the experience that they are having. Their own consciousness is blowing the pictures into their own minds. Your equipment is forming the shapes and expressions of the world around you. You're creating. Um, and So what do I want to talk about? What do I feel inspired to tell us about that I haven't, well, nothing that I haven't already said. I think it's really important that we understand how reality comes into being and what this source energy, 0 point energy, divine matrix, what this field is and what it implies about who we are, about who we are together. Because I'm telling you, we are together. We're all in this together, whether I like it or not, because I'm something of a hermit. And I kind of resent the fact that I have to keep adding all of you in. But I do have to keep adding all of you in because we are a field phenomenon. And I'm affecting you and you're affecting me, and we can't get away from this. We can't get away from it for a whole lot of reasons. There's the nature of the quantum field itself makes it impossible for me to get away from this. The nature of morphogenetic fields and the exchange of data and information across them, that makes it impossible for me to get away from this. My mirror neurons makes it impossible for me to, and your mirror neurons. You have these neurons in your brain that fire when you observe things happening. When you observe other people doing things, you have these neurons in your brain that are mirror neurons that are firing just as though you did these things. That's how come you can't get out of your neighbor's business. You can't get out of your neighbor's head. You can't get out of your neighbor's drama. We are all in this together. Like it or not, we are a field phenomenon, and so it's really helpful if we want to soothe the field, if we want to soothe the aggravation in the field, we got to understand where the inflammation is coming from. And you don't soothe it by punishing it more or by beating it or whatever, and more. The beatings will continue until morale improves. That old adage. That's what we keep doing. We keep trying to beat each other into submission, into better behavior. We are never going to beat each other into better behavior. We can only soothe and love and understand each other into better behavior. Us not understanding these things cause us to summon demons into the space. Now, I said that earlier. I mean it in a very open-minded kind of way. In a very, I'm not stuck to the literalacy of that sentence about summoning demons. But that is the equivalent. They are energies. These are energies within us that we then express outwards upon each other and to the rest of the world. These things I'm calling demons. They are energies. I think that we create them when we act in ways that imply that we don't understand who we are. We cross our own energy stream. We create a kind of shadow self. This shadow self becomes the demon. It's a little, negative emotion in an individual. But when it starts resonating with large groups of people whose needs are not being met, and they start clamoring in their anger or their fear, these larger energies, then that's when you start calling it gods or demons or the devil or whatever. It starts to look like real darkness is looming and walking across the land. It's really just these energies that we create when we do not understand who we are. We cross our own energy stream. We interrupt our own positive forward momentum. We don't understand the positive beings we truly are. We don't link up with one another and know what each other knows. That's actually how the system of humanity is designed. We should be all knowing and sharing what we know. And instead we're all hiding and controlling, this is what I know, and I'm going to patent it, and I'm going to trademark it, and I'm going to, nobody better use it because blah, blah, blah. That's what we do. But ultimately, that strategy is not going to work because there is such a thing as universal consciousness, and all the information is over there. And as soon as we understand who we are, we tap into that field of information that contains all the information, and all of a sudden, you can't hide the passwords. You can't hide the trademark, the proprietary information, because it's all over there. It's all over there in universal consciousness. And we should be sharing everything. We should be sharing all of our knowledge and all of our wisdom. But we can't trust each other yet because, man, there are some of us that if they had an understanding of clean, free, unlimited, literally unlimited energy everywhere possible, they would think only in terms of blowing up their neighbors because of it. We really need to mature here. We need to know who we really are. There is only one of us here. And until we understand that and start thinking in terms of... The reason that's important is because when you think that way, then you're always looking for the win-win-win-win position. You're never looking for the zero-sum game or the high level of competition. You're looking for the highest level of cooperation. And what's the biggest circle of synergy and synchronicity that we can envelop here? What's the biggest group that can be, benefited by this understanding or this system of... There really doesn't have to be winners and losers. We can have winners and maybe slightly less winning winners, but everybody's a winner, as in everybody's needs gets met. What are their needs? Clean freaking air, clean freaking water, peace enough to sleep, to get good communion with the greater soul. That's what sleep is. To have nourishing food for all of us, not all beings, not just human ones. A sheltering environment for all of us, not just human beings. Expression. Actually, expression is the last one. Relationship with one another, because there's only one of us here. There's no us and them. There is no us and them. And as long as you think in terms of us and them, then you build systems that are winning and for winners and losers. Too bad, so sad if you're on the losing side, but F you, I've got mine. That kind of thinking just needs to stop. Because that's creating systems that are not fulfilling everyone's needs. And when everyone's needs are not fulfilled, they start getting angry. They start getting fearful. They start acting out of those negative emotions. And that equals things like the January 6th insurrection, which was perpetrated by a whole lot of people who are not happy in the United States right now. They are frightened and they are angry. And I'm not saying they're right. They have picked up the club of Shiva energy and they are swinging it. And it's a field phenomenon. When I create systems that do not support the whole field, when it does not recognize who I really am and who we all are, it creates what I call Shiva energy in the field. This is the same thing. This is the equivalent to saying you summon demons. And it creates situations that are volatile. Desperate people do desperate things. Angry people do angry things. That's actually what the world wars was an enormous concerted effort. People all focusing one direction, believing an us and them paradigm, believing you're responsible for this and, me wiping you out or whatever is going to fix it. And then a whole bunch of people believing their negative mind and acting on their negative emotions. Angry, blameful, frightened, Now, what causes that? What causes that is JFK said it very well. Those who make peaceful revolution impossible make violent revolution inevitable. And the reason that is that we are revolutioning, we are revolving, we are evolving. And the evolving, I believe, implies expansion. Revolving implies the turning. And both of those things are happening. It's like a spiral, an opening spiral that's going round and round but getting bigger and bigger, like that. That's what it is. So who am I? And where did we come from? And what is this medium we swim in? And what do we do about our political future? Because we have this most horrible, horrifying election looming in front of us, and no possible, it looks like a lose-lose to me from every direction. Is Nikki Haley going to save us? Is Biden going to freaking save us? He hasn't saved us so far. The problem is fossil fuels, people. It is fossil fuels. We should call for a national push for, let's get all the clever people out of the woodwork and have a national contest for the best idea for an over unity device, or something that these collectively, nationally, we should understand that these devices are possible. And that the incremental moving off of fossil fuels could begin tomorrow. Today. As people come up with clever ways to modify engines so they can run on water. How about that one? How about that one? Let's go back and revisit that one. The idea and the specs and whatever, that shit vanished. Let's go find it, because it's somewhere. It's all somewhere. And we can find it again, because we are all one being, and this one being knows everything. If we could line up in the right spirit, the spirit of loving kindness, the spirit of connectedness, the spirit of knowing that everything is all right and that we can solve this. We can just get together with ourselves and just solve it, because there's only one of us here. How interesting. So I also believe that I do believe that we have been genetically modified. I have to say that every day. It's part of my spiel. The reason I believe that is because of this. Because, I've heard it from a lot of different directions. There's rumor. Rumor has it. And the religions whisper about this. They call it, us being created in the image of whatever. And there's traditions going back, and angels and whatever. But there is evidence here, and this is the one bit of evidence that I point to. I don't really need to point to any more evidence from my position, because I'm not taking this question any farther than just this idea that I think we're genetically modified. And I think that it would be interesting to figure out who did that to us, because I think they're still watching us. I think they've been babysitting us for these many thousands of years. Although now they've got a kind of hands off. They're watching to see if we can make it past the point where we understand who we are and we quit being so destructive. Right now we are very armed and dangerous. But our vibration will change when when we figure it out. Our vibration should calm down quite a bit, and they'll be able to see that. They'll be, ooh, okay, we can move in now and talk to them because they're reasonable. Right now, if aliens showed up at our doorstep, we would zap them first, and then would put them onto a dissecting table, and we'd cut them open to figure out who they are and what they're all about. Because that's where our level of consciousness is at the collective level. The collective level of our consciousness is pretty low right now. The collective level is fixing to perhaps elect Trump again. The collective level is still burning fossil fuels. The collective level has a religious understanding that I could only describe as superstitious nonsense in general, for the most part. We need to raise that. I don't really know how to do that, except for to work on raising my own consciousness. And then I'm imagining that the field at some point will call me to an action based on my better understanding. I don't know. I don't know. I do not know who am I? I ask this question, who am I? And what is the greater field around myself doing? What is it going to call me to do to help the situation? Because I can see it. We're burning fossil fuels. We shouldn't be. It's killing the planet. It's dirtying the water. It's dirtying the air. It's killing the ecosystems, the way that we are producing food. We don't need to cut down the freaking rainforest in order to produce. If we want to produce meat, I think there's better ways that we could do it. We need to ask the question, first of all, we should never do anything if it is not in alignment with the greater field. So you ask yourself the question, what's the win-win position here? And then you do the best you can with the largest swath of the field that you can. And then you wait and see whether you created any negative rebound, reverb. Did any Shiva energy whip back? You monitor this by watching the rest of the human beings in the field. Are they in poverty? Are they in want? Are they suffering? Are they warring with one another? If they are, then somewhere the needs aren't being met. And we're fighting over resources. If human beings would more clearly get into alignment with what they need and want what they need, you can't always get what you want, but you just might find you get what you need. And if you'd want what you need and need what you want, like that, we could line up with this pretty quickly. But instead, we want absurd things that we don't need at all. And we don't even want the things that we need. Personally, my opinion about why that is true is I think that the primary directive, the primary drive, is to know who we are. And until that one is satisfied, all of the rest is going to come out wonky. But when we more clearly understand who we are, then the rest of it's gonna shake out better. So anyway, I see that I am past an hour. I wasn't even sure I was going to record this morning. I was not particularly inspired. I was reluctant. I was resistant. I dragged myself into the space, and now I'm discoursing on my favorite topic. Who am I, and what is this medium I'm swimming in? How does reality come into being? All in reference to source energy. What is source energy? How does it work? Now I don't know where to go. There's the full abstract, where it says that it's claiming that chromosome number 2 is the relic of an ancient telomere-to-telomere fusion and marks the point at which 2 ancestral ape chromosomes fused to give rise to human chromosome number 2. I just can't get past this. I can't get past this to, oh, that's interesting, now what else? No, this is freaking interesting. look at this. I believe we were genetically modified. And it sure does explain a whole lot of things. It explains, for one thing, why we have this why we have this configuration that has a default setting. We tend to, now, a human being that has been treated kindly and raised gently behaves one way. But a traumatized human being has a problem with their default setting. A traumatized human being's default setting goes to the destructive. A traumatized human being's default setting creates Shiva energy and has a tendency to take the negative mind literally, and gets off balance with this source mind, physical mind. You believe the material instead of going with your inner guidance system. All of this has been created because we have been genetically modified, and this nature that we have been given is not natural. We did not evolve to it over millions of years with tremendous, deep-seated, deep-rooted understanding of the nature of existence and who we are. That is not where we came to it. Somebody granted it to us, and so we don't really fully know it the way we should. Every one of us should be born into a home with a user's manual sitting on the coffee table so that you can start understanding from an early age, oh, these negative emotions I'm having, they're not actually a reflection of existential goodness or badness. It's all good. It's all fine. All is well. I am good, you're good. If it looks other than that, then this is the explanation. You know? This is how your thoughts are turning to things. This is how manifested reality comes into being. If you don't like what you've got, how do you change it so that you bend it to something more pleasing and less not pleasing? How do you do that? We aren't taught how to do that. We're taught things like, well, you'll get your reward in heaven. Just be a good person now and love Jesus. Or what? I'm not even sure what kind of practical advice they're giving you about sin and the devil and evil and, how to get... You aren't really given very good practical advice about how to get what you want, how to make your dreams come true, how to find your happily ever after, how to truly find it. Hint, it really actually ends up having something to do with, virtues and noble concepts, honor and justice and fairness and love and forgiveness, and it really does have to do with all those things, but not for any goody two-shoes reasons, more because of the way certain things resonate within you and how it feels when your two minds line up with their thinking. Is your specific micro self really does need to take higher thoughts. When you take lower ones of a lower vibrational frequency, if they're too low, you get the sensation of negative emotion because of the difference in the resonant frequencies between your two minds. That's what's causing it. It's just as simple as that, and you don't have to take it personally. You don't have to take it as an indictment upon your worth, because you are worthy. I don't care how bad you're being. You're worthy, you just may be out of alignment. So don't question your worthiness. You're wonderful. Question your alignment. And if you're feeling negative emotion, the negative emotion is not coming from the trueness of your unworthy qualities. it's coming from the trueness of your lack of alignment between your two minds. So line them up. Find that place where it feels good inside of you. Find that place where it feels safe inside of you. Find that place where your two minds resonate with one another in peace and happiness and joy and eagerness and interest and worthiness. You are worthy. Go find it. So, anyway, I'm not sure that I know that I say this every day. I say it every day. And I don't know where to go say this next. I have been threatening to or promising a guest in the studio, and I haven't gotten one yet because me and my potential guest have not done the requisite test runs. We haven't worked on the equipment. We haven't done a test call. We keep calling each other and talking about life, but we don't do the show, and I'm sorry. If you're getting bored with me, please forgive me. This morning, I think we're going to go out and play golf. I think we're going to play, well, I don't know if we're going to play 9 holes or whether, actually I think we're going to do that tomorrow. We're just going to hit balls and then go up to Santa Fe and have a nice lunch at Harry's Roadhouse. Love Harry's Roadhouse. One of my favorite restaurants in Santa Fe, and certainly a reasonably priced one. So who am I? Who am I? Who am I, my little self? And what the heck am I doing? What is my life all about? Where am I going? Why am I here? How do I affect this field phenomenon? Because actually, I can work this to my favor. The fact that I am a field means that all I have to do, really, I can be a hermit and I can still affect the field. Because the field is bigger than just me, and it's picking up on me even if I am not moving so much around the rest of the world. I can just sit here and think things and feel things and know that the field is picking it up. Isn't that interesting? Actually, I would like to get into the middle of a think tank, a non-resistant think tank where we're just spitballing, taking into consideration the way that the field actually operates, and try to come up with some really good ideas about how to solve our really biggest problems. What are our biggest problems? Sixth mass extinction, garbage island, global warming, perpetual war, energy crisis, worldwide poverty. Well, what's the first thing that's going to solve all of those problems? We got to get off fossil fuels. So I would think that the first thing coming out of that think tank is going to be some sort of push, national push, to find great ideas to get us incrementally off fossil fuels. We don't have to do it all at once. Let's do it incrementally. The thing is that people shut down the thinking process by saying, oh no, we can't do that. We have to keep burning fossil fuels because of, all of the infrastructure we got in place right now. Well, that's true. That's true. So we can incrementally, from this moment on, we can start getting off of them. Incrementally, just a little bit at a time. Just use less and less and less and less and less until finally we're not using any at all. Now, I'll tell you who objects to that view. The people who own the hundreds of trillions of dollars worth of economic activity, magnified, amplified economic activity that fossil fuel represents. If you incrementally get off of it so that, 50 years from now we're not using any of it at all, then all of those people who own the rights to that own nothing. And right now, their rights to that is giving them the yachts The billion-dollar yachts, have you seen them? Those yachts are some of the coolest pieces of technology that human beings have created. They're just wonderful. They're wonderful and amazing, but they are concentrating a lot of economic activity in one little thing that benefits just a couple of people instead of the win-win situation it should be for all of us. It's a win-lose for, they're winning and we're losing kind of a thing. So in a way they're wonderful, and we should actually look at those with wonder and marvel at their wonderment. But then maybe put them in a museum and go at it a little differently. I don't know. I don't know. Actually, it's possible for them to exist and for all of the rest of us to still be getting what we want. I actually think there is a win-win position, even with the mega billionaires upon the planet. I just think that it can't be fossil fuels. It has to be source energy. And when we plug into source energy, oh my goodness, the wealth that will be created by us plugging into fossil fuels, away from fossil fuels and into source energy. I think it's going to be amazing. I think it's going to be wonderful. So, I put this slide up, never explained it. If you're a regular, you know what it is. 4 general states of being. This represents brakes and accelerator. Why is that? Because when you go specifically into a subject, you're putting on the accelerator, you're putting on the gas, you're going faster and faster. And the more specific and physical you start talking about it and dealing with it, the faster you are moving in physical reality. If you are in a negative and you're not liking what you're getting, the answer is not to keep thinking harder about it from that negative position. The answer is pull back to the general. And then from the general, try to pivot to a positive. Any positive. You pull back to the general, you can always go back to life sucks. And then try to find a general positive from there. Oh, well, it doesn't always suck. Sometimes it's, actually... So I'll tell you the specific negatives. All the specific negatives, I just listed them a second ago. War, poverty. I forgot about growing deserts, desertification, the dunification of planet Gaia, planet Eden. That's all in the negative. The oxidation of the oceans, the warming of the oceans and the dying off of the coral reefs, the slowing of the circulation systems caused by the melting of the ice. I saw a whole thing about that. There's all kinds of bad news. All of that stuff is all bad stuff. However, if you focus upon the actual nature of reality and how reality comes into being and the steps 1, 2, 3 of creation, and get into a state of allowance, or what is the other word? State of steps 1, 2, 3. Life causes you to ask. Step 2, source answers. Step 3, you got to get into the receiving mode of your source's information so that you can download the imagination hits you're getting from your greater self, the good ideas. They're coming from the positive higher frequencies. It's so big. It's so big I get lost in it. I really do. The specific negative is all the actual problems we've got on the ground. General negative is, life, this is tricky. Life is tricky. General positive. Actually, the field is set up for a win-win. We've just got to understand where it lies. And then now you can start getting very specifically positive as you recognize how the field actually manifests reality, and go over there and let's start manifesting the reality we actually want. The one where we are not killing the planet, where we are gardening the planet, where we are making sure that every community has a source of food and water and air and shelter and expression and relationship and peace for sleep and all of that. Everybody has that. All of the squirrels and all of the birds and all of the raccoons and all of the human beings and all of the coyotes and all of the pets and all of the everybody. Can't we all just get along? There is a point, there is a place where there is a win-win position. I know that there is. I can see it. I can see it. And the very first thing we do is we get off of fossil fuels and start co-creating more consciously with Mother Earth, with the systems in alignment with ourselves. Anyway, I feel like I'm just rambling now. I feel like I'm just repeating myself. And I am, kind of. So, where do I want to take this to end? I always bring up this. The 5 kleshas. This is from Buddhist philosophy, considered to be the root cause of all suffering. And I'm going to have to agree with them, in the sense that it's not knowing who we are and not knowing how our equipment works and not knowing how the quantum field is creating reality and not knowing how you, each and every one of us individually, is creating the very special flavor of our own specific experience. You are getting back exactly what you're putting out, because you are a transmitter and a receiver. And your emotional moods, you are speaking to the field, and the field is echoing it back to you. It is the most miraculous setup you could possibly imagine. It is both blessed and magical, and not magical at all. It's completely understandable, absolutely logical, completely beneficent and benign and blessed. We live in a really, really, really cool universe. And I guess that's my main message. Let's focus on how cool this universe is and how it is designed to allow us to create a new reality that is more of what we want and less of what we don't want. And how do we do that? We have to understand how we're doing it. How our focus, our attention, what we are looking at and how we are looking at it is individually, person by person. Each one of us is creating our own reality, and then collectively, together, creating our collective reality as we're doing this. We're dreaming this into place. And I think we should be dreaming a better version, not just regurgitating the same terrible version or reliving these same horrible cyclical patterns. We're going to have to do something with this thing we call America if we can't put a better leader at the helm of this than what we've got on offer right now. You know? We need to get a grip on understanding what's actually happening. What is the field phenomenon playing out in front of us? It is not the play of logic and reason that we pretend that it is. It's an energy event. And if we're not careful, the anger and the fear is going to sweep us into a terrible place. But it doesn't have to. I'm actually not a gloom and doom kind of person. It is whatever we put, it's going to give us back whatever we put out. If we want that mirror to smile at us, we're going to have to smile. We cannot force the mirror to smile. We got to understand it's all us. It is all us. We're going to get back the love we put out. And I'm just talking about it as a vibrational frequency. Don't worry about what that means you might have to go do, who you might have to go be nice to. Don't translate it into physical action. Just translate it into a vibration and go with the vibration. And then eventually just move naturally from what you're naturally inspired to do. With that, it looks like I just hit an hour and a half. I don't think this is my finest hour. This is not my finest hour and a half. It's not my finest work, but I did it. Who am I? I'll try to come back tomorrow and do it some more. Maybe, unless I take a day off. I don't know. Because I don't really know what I'm doing. But I do know this. I do know that if you are listening to this, I love you. I love you. I appreciate you. I will see you again tomorrow, or perhaps the next day. If you don't see me tomorrow, I might take a day off. I could have taken today off, but I didn't. In any case, until tomorrow, I wish you well. I bid you peace. And may the source be with you.